What is up, and welcome back, fellow geeks and horror fans. This is another episode of Horror Stew. So you're probably asking yourself, what are we going to talk about today? What are we going to get into? But before we do that, I want to give everybody a big thank you for continuing to support the channel. Obviously go like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Be awesome to see our Twitter continue to grow. We're in the I think we're around 40-ish people right now that are following us, at least at the time of recording this. So it'd be cool to see some more growth there. So continue to support us. Of course, we're super excited to continue to make content and videos for you guys. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into the video. So today we're actually talking about one of my favorite all-time creepypastas and one of my favorite internet urban legends. This character, this entity is, in my opinion, probably one of the most important creepypastas because of how popular it got. This individual creation literally set the standard for what creepypastas needed to be, in my opinion. Obviously, there are good creepypastas before and after, but this one specifically really set the bar high, and it evolved into different media formats, comics, television, movies, and so on and so forth. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. Today, we are talking about the SlenderMan. So the SlenderMan. So you've probably seen the SlenderMan. He kind of looks something like that. The SlenderMan is a character of urban legend. All right, and this is like an actual urban legend, like this guy probably doesn't exist, urban legend. And if he does exist, I am very afraid to see him in real life. SlenderMan, for all intents and purposes, started off as a really good, creepy story. That really good, creepy story evolved, and it honestly has gotten bigger than I have ever seen any other creepypasta get. SlenderMan spawned video games. He spawned actual theatrical release movies. And even more than that, he is a prominent urban legend of YouTube, different forum sites like Reddit, Tumblr, the creepypasta forums and everything else. So he elevates the idea or the concept of a urban legend. So we're going to start and kind of talk about just some stuff about SlenderMan. We're going to kind of get some ideas of where the SlenderMan came from, where did the mythos start, and where did it go. So to start off, I would be remiss without mentioning how SlenderMan came to be. SlenderMan started on a forum that I have here as Something Awful. Something Awful forum, if I remember correctly, it was just a general forum. You could pretty much talk about just whatever. But the individual who made this obviously made a story. I believe he maybe even photoshopped in pictures. I could be wrong. I wasn't around really on the internet prominently when this started. Obviously, I had access to the internet, but I wasn't involved in forums. I've never been involved in forums, if I'm going to be real with you. But he started as a creepypasta in 2009. I don't have the individual who made him, but to that individual, thank you, sincerely. But that individual, he created the SlenderMan lore and story, as well as created some media. He actually, if I'm not mistaken, made photos and also allowed other people to make photos, which eventually continue to spawn and project the SlenderMan mythos. And I'm just going to put some general stuff up here that kind of shows you some of the stuff from the early ages of SlenderMan, because this was early Photoshop, this was early, stuff that they would put in there, and it was really, really awesome stuff. And to expand on that, the Something Awful forum, obviously projected SlenderMan into the internet mythos. But as with all things, people try and tie myth into real life to try and make it more scary. It's something that we actually found during my research, and something that I was one of those things that was in the back of my head that I kind of knew, but I didn't really know. There was actually a German folklore of Der Grobman. I probably mispronounced that. I don't speak German. Basically, he was a German SlenderMan. He was a little bit different. I don't actually know the full mythos, but he wasn't necessarily the SlenderMan that we know. But he kind of looks SlenderMan-esque. He sometimes is depicted with arms coming out of his back. I'll kind of show some stuff here. He's also, depicted with some additional, additional likeness to that of SlenderMan. So Der Grobman was something in real life that we could kind of attach the SlenderMan to in a way. But obviously, with all things, people will pick up the idea and they will sprint with it. I was going to say they're going to run with it, but no, they sprint with it. And that's what we did. The internet took the idea of the SlenderMan, they ingested it, and then they ran with it. And that's what we're going to talk about next. We're going to talk about really how SlenderMan evolved, and specifically how he evolved with the series Marble Hornets. Now, if you've never watched Marble Hornets, it's on YouTube. I can't remember how many videos as it is, but it's quite a bit of a watch if you ever want to sit down and watch it. However, I would recommend it because honestly, in my opinion, Marble Hornets is one of the earliest, I guess you could, the ARGs, I think they called, augmented reality games or video series. There's a term for it that I cannot remember all the top of my head, but it was in a way an augmented reality type series called Marble Hornets. And in Marble Hornets, SlenderMan was actually called the Operator, but honestly, the Marble Hornets really expanded on the mythos and the powers of the SlenderMan and really gave him this next level of supernatural ability. That being said, Marble Hornets obviously eventually ended years ago now, but it was probably one of my favorite things on YouTube for a very, 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 very long time. I literally anticipated watching those videos anytime they were released. The releases were sporadic. Obviously, it was done so because it was supposed to be following this story, and in reality, the story was that these people were being followed by the Operator. So, they're not going to be able to continuously upload, and honestly, it was great. I have gone back and watched it a couple times. Honestly, talking about it here makes me want to go back and watch it again. And even to expand upon that, Troy Wagner, who's one of the individuals behind Marble Hornets, he's even talked about in the last few years trying to revamp Marble Hornets or trying to continue the series. And we'll actually talk a little bit here in a minute about another thing that they did with the Marble Hornets series, which kind of even projected it, in my opinion, to another level. But of course, with all things, people are going to make video games. There are Jeff the Killer video games. There are, I'm trying to think of another creepypasta, but there are lots of other creepypastas that are made into games. SlenderMan is absolutely no exception. There are a lot of SlenderMan games. Now, I'm not going to go into all of them, but I'm going to go back to the very first one that I watched, or I should say played, which was Slender the 8 Pages. Slender the 8 Pages was a first-person game where you went around an abandoned forest with some other stuff in there. There was like an abandoned building, there was like some silos and like big old propane-looking tanks, and all their kind of different fixtures. And you would essentially walk around and collect the 8 pages. As you collected the pages, the SlenderMan would obviously, the AI would speed up. He would come hunting for you, and it was harder and harder to evade and elude him. But your ultimate goal was to collect the 8 pages. Now, that came out back in 2012, which honestly, thinking about that is insane. Almost 9 years ago, Slender the 8 Pages. It was actually a SlenderMan game prior to this one, but this one's probably one of the most prominent. And obviously, there were additional games that spawned from this, even some more, I don't want to call them, major league titles, but some more advanced, some more, what I would say is more budget video games, because this one was a very small, low-budget video game. And it's clear that it's a small, low-budget video game, but that's not to say that it was bad in any way. The game honestly continued to propel the SlenderMan mythos and the urban legend, and it honestly, in my opinion, was a very scary game for its time. Obviously, the game very much relied on jump scares, the audio cues, and everything else. Slender literally would just pop up right behind you, and it would scare the living hell out of you. So looking back at it 8 years ago, super creepy, super scary, and it's still worth the time that went into it. I recently went back and watched Markiplier actually play the game as part of my studies here. And honestly, it was very interesting to see. Honestly, to see first of all, see a big YouTuber play that back in the day. But it was a super interesting kind of look at it and to really just process like, wow, this is really happening. So now we're actually going to kind of step into another facet of the SlenderMan mythos, which is the actual motion picture side of SlenderMan. All right, so now we are going to talk about movies. So first and foremost, I'm not 100% sure if my camera is actually in the correct position as it was before, but if it is not, I'm sorry for anybody out there that's going to drive you nuts. I had to delete some stuff off my phone in order to continue filming, so yeah. Anyways, so here's what we're going to do now. We're going to talk about the cinematic films within the SlenderMan mythos, the first one of which is going to be The Tall Man from 2012 with Jessica Biel. Which honestly I didn't know was Jessica Biel when I watched it. Honestly, I didn't really know who it was. I really don't know who Jessica Biel is. I know it's a bigger name from what I remember, kind of. But the point is that this is kind of the first one. Now, I will let you know, spoiler alerts first and foremost, because this is going to be a spoiler because it's going to tell you exactly what happens in the movie. All right, I said it. Now I can go on. So in The Tall Man is not actually SlenderMan, but they allude to a SlenderMan-esque myth within the universe. They talk about the tall man. He takes you, you know. So there's kind of like an ongoing myth or urban legend in this, movie that the tall man is stealing people, stealing children specifically, which is a very common trope within the SlenderMan mythos as well. That being said, this movie is actually not SlenderMan. This movie is actually just an individual who is taking children who are in bad homes or in bad situations and putting them in better homes, giving them new names. So it's kind of a weird, like, it's trafficking, but it's not like bad trafficking, because what they're doing is they're taking these children out of these homes, they're giving them new lives that are better than what they were in before. Now, obviously, it's kind of a weird concept because obviously that's like, why would you do that? Like, it's kind of an odd thing to want to do. But essentially, there are good intentions for the individual who's doing it. So keep that in mind if you watch the movies, that if you've never watched it and you're like, okay, I'm going to watch it now. It's pretty good. It's very spooky still. It's very much a thriller, not a horror movie by any means, but it's pretty good. I will say it's pretty solid. When I was doing some research, it didn't have a lot of really great reviews, but what movie gets good reviews these days, right? So the next movie I'm going to talk about is actually a movie that I own. I remember I saw this one day at a Walmart. But it was always watching a Marble Hornets story. It's actually the film that's supposed to sort of, I don't want to say finish, but it's supposed to round off the Marble Hornets series, because this came out in 2015. And it was actually a pretty solid film. It definitely followed the mythos of Marble Hornets. A lot of the tropes that Marble Hornets had developed during its tenure on YouTube was poured into this movie, which isn't by no means a bad thing. The movie is fantastic. I own it on DVD. I don't know if people own DVDs anymore. It wasn't in Blu-ray yet at the time. I actually have seen it recently in Blu-ray, and I don't think 4K, but Blu-ray at least. So you can actually probably pick it up for pretty solid, cheap price at Walmart, because it's in those bins now since it's been a while since it's gone out. So if you want to check that out, check your local Walmart or Amazon. But yeah, Marble Hornets, kind of a continuation of that storyline and that version of SlenderMan being the operator. So very, very, very cool. I really enjoyed it. It doesn't have the original characters from Marble Hornets, but it's very much inspired by what Marble Hornets was trying to do. Now, I'm not saying go back and watch, all 60, 70 videos of Marble Hornets and then watch this, but maybe watch a few Marble Hornets videos, kind of get the feeling of that, and then watch this. And it's actually cool because in Marble Hornets, they actually have somebody who physically plays the SlenderMan. He's not necessarily like CG or animation or anything like that. So very, 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 very cool. Highly recommend it. Now, the last one we're going to talk about, and this one is this one I go back and forth on. So the 2018 film SlenderMan, major motion picture, big budget, big name actors and actresses at the time. Joey King is in this. You may know Joey King from movies like The Conjuring. She was in the Act, I think it was, which was the Gypsy Rose Blanchard story. She was also in Kissing Booth, which is a romantic film on Netflix if you want to go watch that. So Joey King is in this film. So SlenderMan 2018, I go back and forth because, in my opinion, it was interesting because it definitely took a more traditional approach to SlenderMan. It definitely went back to the old creepypasta, what he was, how he operated. And in fact, it honestly used a lot of elements from the 8 pages because it really, we're talking really played heavily on like, ooh, creepy, spooky, So it was good. My only issue with the movie, and I kind of wish they would release like a director's cut or like an unrated cut or something like that, because the film fell to the devices of every horror movie in the last decade, where it put all of these really creepy and shocking images and clips in the trailer, and then none of them were in the movie. There was one specific clip that pops to my mind where one of the people has maybe it is an X-Acto knife or like a little scalpel. I think that is an X-Acto knife, maybe not. Anyways, really sharp knife, and just stabs himself in the face and then splatters people in the room. That wasn't in the movie, and not to say I was looking forward to that specifically, but that kind of set the tone for the movie from the trailer, and then that is not in the movie, right? You're just like, what the hell? So I go back and forth because from a simple film standpoint, had I not watched any trailers leading up to it, SlenderMan was an all right movie. Obviously, it fell to some of the old devices that we see from other films. It had its typical tropes and everything else, but it definitely followed a more traditional stance on SlenderMan, which was interesting to me. But from purely from a standpoint of, I hate it when movies do it and it's a matter of principle, I didn't want to like the movie because it left out specific things from the trailer that is misleading. It's like the whole Suicide Squad issue. Jared Leto's Joker is literally in almost every frame of the trailer, and then he's got like 5 or 10 minutes of screen time in the actual movie. Still looking for that. We got the Snyder cut of Justice League. I'm waiting for the I'm really drawing a blank on who made the original Suicide Squad, but I'm waiting for the director's cut of that because that'd be interesting. It's probably got at least 30 more minutes of the Joker. Not to say I like the Jared Leto Joker, but I would still like to see more of it. Regardless of all that, though, I'm getting off topic. SlenderMan, the movie in 2018, I would recommend giving it a watch. Don't go into it with high expectations, as with most movies, but definitely go into it thinking, this is going to be a very cool, just nifty movie that I'm going to watch, and it's got the SlenderMan in it, and it's really, that's what I can say about it. But it's weird to think that, in 2009, 11 years ago, SlenderMan started as just a simple concept on a forum that would eventually evolve into major motion pictures like the one in 2018, that has legitimate big name actresses like Joey King, and it's very surprising. You don't expect films, concepts like that to explode in the way that it did. But it's really great to see it explode because, genuinely speaking, it's a great film. What can I say? It was a great film, given that it started from such humble beginnings in 2009 on an internet forum. So it's just interesting to see that projection, and that's another reason why I like the movie, is because it is, in my opinion, it's the culmination of 11 years worth of internet. You know what I mean? So, that being said, feel free to watch any of these. Go watch Marble Hornets. I'm pretty sure Slim to the 8 Pages is a free game, if I'm not mistaken. At least it was free when I got it originally. So you could probably go download it somewhere, or it may even be in like a Flash player. Wait a second, maybe not. I think Flash is no longer supported on anything. But anyways, you can go play that game, go download it, go find it somewhere. Just have fun with it. But yeah, just go check this stuff out. But I'm going to end it there. So everybody who's watching, thank you for watching, of course. Check out Horror Stew at this point. We should have at least 3 or 4 episodes out. And definitely continue to support Geek-Stew as a whole. We have a lot of great stuff coming your way. But as always, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy, and keep on growing. See ya.